You know what it's like when you sold to a prospect and in your mind you were expecting them to go ahead and buy. Maybe because you were so excited, so enthusiastic, sounded so positive, and you were just hoping that definitely something will come out of this. And all of a sudden, you were disappointed. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to show you how you can reduce your disappointments. And I'm going to show you this by letting you know the signs, three major signs that will let you know that a prospect is wasting your time and he's not going to buy. My name is Iyore. I've trained thousands of salespeople across several countries, including Nigeria, Ghana, USA, UAE, Rwanda. I'm an author of several books and resources on sales, and I've been featured on lots of media platforms to talk about successful selling. I work at an organization where I was going to target to sell to 20 high net worth individuals, and I was able to bring in 21 high net worth individuals to the organization in a single month. I also participated in a sales competition where I won, and I was sent for the World Cup for an all-expense paid trip. I moved to another organization where I was able to double my portfolio by over 100% in just 11 months. I'm CEO for Advantage and our specialties in Salesforce management. This means work with sales teams, partnering with the CEOs and the team leads to help them optimize sales results and get sales results faster and in record time. I'm doing this using frameworks, toolkits, templates, which we deploy under our sales performance brand to help them get excellent results. Ladies and gentlemen, let's go right in. Normally when I talk about all these signs that a prospect is wasting your time or a prospect is not going to buy, some people say things like, I've seen cases where a prospect bought nevertheless. Now, I agree with you. What I'm saying is not absolute. There will be some cases where, despite all these signs I've shown you, the prospect still went ahead to buy. But in most cases, it won't be so. Now, you want to tilt your strategy and your approach on the side where, in most cases, it will be so. So that way, you can increase your chances of winning. Now, I hope you know that a lot of times, it's not just about making a sale, right? It's about meeting a sales target. If you meet the sales targets, that's the objective, that's the goal. So the very first sign, ladies and gentlemen, number one, the first sign that lets you know that the prospect is wasting your time and is not going to buy from you is he has refused to give you an opportunity for a presentation. He or she has refused to give you an opportunity for a presentation. Now, when I say presentation, don't think of somebody standing in front of a room and pitching something to someone, right? Just think of it this way. Think of number one, a case where you are trying to get a meeting to present what you have to present. Because see, a lot of times, if you sell a product or service, there is a trend of how people buy from you. If you look at the trend of how people buy from you, is it over the phone most people buy? If you've been selling consistently and it's not over the phone, you realize that you have to meet the person face to face, then you know that if the person has not given you a meeting, it's not going to be so. So if the person has refused to even give you an opportunity to meet with them, number two, they give you an opportunity to speak with them, maybe because your own type of sale, you close it, you can close over the phone, maybe you're in telesales or something, they refuse to give an opportunity to speak to them, you're even trying to get their contact, to send them something, they refuse. Ladies and gentlemen, without any connection, without any conversation, there can be no sale. So the conversation is the catalyst that brings about the sale. And that's why in sales, we say, keep the conversation going. As long as you keep the prospect in the conversation. I remember watching a documentary, and this salesman, he got an offer from a client. He gave the client an offer, and the client replied with a very weak offer, with a very poor offer, meaning that maybe he asked him to do $1 million. The person now said he wanted to do $250,000. It was so ridiculous. And his staff said, "What? This is nonsense." We tried to throw it out. Said, no offer is a bad offer. At least he replied. This means that he's still in the conversation. So, ladies and gentlemen, as long as the prospect is still in the conversation, we are on our way to the close. When the conversation stops, then, ladies and gentlemen, there's signs that possibly he's not going to buy. So, is anybody who has stopped speaking with you or has stopped the conversation? I encourage you this week, get back into the conversation. Because if you get back into the conversation, you have a chance of still being able to close. So attention is currency in sales. And that's why we're saying that make sure that the person, whichever prospect you're trying to sell to at the beginning of any sales process, make sure that the person is willing to give you their time. If you can give me your time, you are more likely going to be able to give me your money. Because he that is faithful in little is faithful in much. If you are not faithful to give me your time, which is little, you won't give me your money, which is much. So I don't want you to having false hopes and you're saying things like, I spoke to him. You know that in the type of sale you do, people need to see something. People need to hear a presentation before they go ahead. But you're saying, okay, well, I know that he's interested. Why do you say he's interested? Because he asked me to send him my brochure. He asked you to send his brochure, but you already know that all the people you've been sending brochures to in the past, none of them have made any buying decision. But you feel like because the person is excited and say, send me a brochure, I'll look at it, I'll get back to you. Don't plan like that. If you already know that your precedence, for example, if you do real estate, nobody can just buy from a brochure. It will be a one-off. You will have to possibly meet the person face to face for a presentation, walk the person through, or a virtual call with videos turned on. It's not even going to be a phone call thing. There has to be some trust and credibility. Real estate is a massive step for a lot of people. It's a major transaction for a lot of people. We're not just talking about buying a shoe or buying a shirt or buying some fast-moving consumer good. No. It's a major investment. Therefore, people have to be able to give attention and check and be sure that what they're buying is what it says it is. If you sell IT solutions, maybe even insurance policies, at some level of an insurance policy or IT solutions, there has to be a face-to-face meeting. So that's what I mean by making sure that you get a meeting. If the person has refused to meet with you, there are chances that it may not be so. Secondly, the person has refused to give you access to the other decision makers. This means that you're trying to sell to someone and you realize that this person is not the final decision maker. If you look at this particular playlist, it's called the Sales Process to Unlimited Wealth. In this playlist, there are videos on how to profile and how to qualify prospects. Now, if you've watched that video on how to qualify prospects, you would know that if you have checked for all the decision makers and the decision-making process of this prospect, and you notice that there is somebody that he decides with, and he's not willing to give you access to that person, and he's telling you, say it to me, I'll go and tell the person. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a 50-50 thing. It's not guaranteed. Now, if somebody is telling you, say it, if you realize that the prospect you're selling to, the other decision maker is probably his spouse, for example, and the person says, my spouse is not in the country, and you ask for an opportunity to meet with him and his spouse, maybe for a virtual presentation to walk them through, right? And he says, no, just say it to me, I'll go and tell it to the person. And you say, oh, sir, with the right tone of voice, oh, sir, you know that because this is my specialty, I most likely will do a better job at explaining this. Why don't you just let me have a meeting? Let me just walk both of you through. You see, with the right tone of voice. And he says, okay, no, well, don't worry. I may not be able to get her to meet with you. Don't worry. Just say everything to me. I'll go and explain to her. Because you don't have a choice in that case, you can just decide to say it to him or her. And let them just go and do the work. But what that would mean is that your chances of closing will drop significantly. It will drop significantly. Remember how I started this video? There are cases where despite that, it may work. Which no doubt. But in most cases, no. So what you want to do, you want to try and make sure you have access to all the other decision makers. That's the second thing. Number three, third sign that the person who's not going to buy from you and the person just wasting your time. You get to the point where you tell the person there's going to be a price increase. And you say, sir, this is month of September. By the middle of the month, the price is going to be reviewed upwards. And he says, it doesn't matter, no problem. Even if it's reviewed twice the price, I will still pay at that price because I have money. The litmus test for time wasting. Don't do that. If you're telling someone there's going to be a price review, and despite that, he still says, no, don't worry, it doesn't matter. Even if it's higher, I will still pay at that price. Ladies and gentlemen, that's a sign that the person you're speaking to is probably not going to do business with you. So I want you to look at these three things, right? Can you get the person to give you a presentation? Or to give you the attention enough to speak with him? And the person doesn't just cut you off and say, send me something. Number two, can you profile? Does it give you the opportunity to meet or have access to the decision makers? Number three, when you use urgency, does he act or move? Or he just says, it doesn't matter. Even if it's the last unit left, another time will come when my units will come. Wow, ladies and gentlemen, those are signs for you that, man, the person is not going to do business with you. And I'll close with this. Just so you know, follow-up is also important. If I'm done pitching to you and I possibly am asking for, I don't know, for whatever case, there are different scenarios how a sales conversation may go. Just imagine a case where you met somebody somewhere and the person says, oh, okay, let's talk. I'm waiting for someone. I'll be here for like an hour. Can you talk to me? Let me hear about your project. And you finished engaging the person. and you realize that he's the only decision maker, and you want to move to the close, and he says, okay, let me just think about it, let me get back to you, and we'll take it from there. And you're asking for a contact to be able to follow up, and he refuses to give you contact to follow up. Ladies and gentlemen, that would not just be like number one. He has not given opportunity to stay in the conversation. That means that your chances of closing will be very slim. I hope you know that if you put all these things to work and practice these things consistently, you'll find out that most times, in fact, if you go back and check all the people that you're expecting payments from, expecting business from, and you use this criteria I've shown you to test them, you will see what you really have as opportunities. And this will guide you whether you should start prospecting afresh for more people or to follow up at a much deeper level. Thanks so much for watching today's video. If you haven't watched this next video, please watch the next video. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe here as well. Thanks so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Talk to you soon.